This time I am going to go over the birth of the trumpet. This is Straight Ahead samples the new standard instrument series. This is the trumpet, and it's a release from before, but I just got it with the wrench here instead of the cogwheels, which means that I can actually connect my breath controller to it, and I can also use my own vibrato instead of the scripted vibrato, which makes all the difference for me as a performer or improviser. This makes the instrument so much more accessible for me as a guitar player. So I'm going to go over how I do this here. Let's start with the MIDI guitar 2 settings. Polyphonic tracking, band range 2 enabled, aftertouch enabled, although I'm not using aftertouch here. On the MIDI velocity side, start with these at 12 o'clock as always. I haven't done any different here either. So let's go to this instrument now. This would be as it comes straight out of the box in the Kontakt container. This is Straight Ahead's own vibrato. You hear a subtle vibrato here, and it's perfectly fine, but as I actually have a guitar and can use my own vibrato, I always want to use that to at least have the feeling that I'm playing the stuff myself. It's a matter of me connecting with a virtual instrument in a more intimate way, or at least in a way where I feel that I'm the one in the driver's seat. So we're not going to use this vibrato. I'm clicking that option away, and we have a velocity staccato trigger. This is not interesting for us at all as MIDI guitar players, but this is this is the dynamics section, and you have a mod wheel option and a key velocity option. The mod wheel you can see here. It's almost perfect in a sense that I'm going to connect my breath controller to the mod wheel for the mod wheel way of using the dynamics here, but instead of the key velocity that would depend on how hard I strike my notes. So we're going to use the mod wheel dynamics setting here. Nothing here, nothing here. One thing you may want to do before you go further is to click on this mute key switches. You can see here above the instrument range, the blue part of the keyboard here, you have this purple set. That's the key switches for the mutes. And since the range of the instrument stops somewhere at E or F, I think, yeah, would be the F here. We're directly on to our mutes then afterwards, and instead of us accidentally triggering some or changing the mutes, let's not have those key switches available. So click on this so it's not blue. Now we can go back to the main page. This is the interesting part now. So if you see up here you have the wrench symbol on the button, and in the last version of this instrument you had 2 cogwheels there instead, and that means that this whole instrument setting is locked. You can't do any changes on it. If I go into it now, you see that obviously I can go into it, and this is making it much more of an interesting instrument for me to work with, since I can do stuff like connecting my breath controller to any parameters and doing some small changes. The thing to look at here is you're only going to go for the group editor part here. It's darker when I activate it, and we're looking to edit all groups. This is important, otherwise you won't have the effect. So group editor, edit all groups, and then we can go to this part where it says pitch bend already. I don't know what this pitch bend does, but it doesn't work for me yet as a controller for the instrument. So if I do like, you hear that this instrument doesn't bend as you would want it to. So the easiest thing for me to do here is to actually only add a pitch bend. So now we have 2, but at least I have 1 that works. So if we go back here to the main page, you can follow the pitch bend here. And you can follow the mod wheel here. I've connected my breath controller here on Midi channel 1 and on to send out Midi CC1, which would be controlling the mod wheel instead of the traditional or usual Midi CC2 which would be the breath controller, since this instrument doesn't take any breath controller information as of now. So I'm using this to control their connection between the mod wheel and the dynamics there. And I'm not using anything else. The bite part is disabled and the nod and tilt are disabled as well. So I'm only using breath in this case. And it looks, the curve looks like this. It's the red part. So when we come back to the instrument here, you can see that if I blow into this one, you'll see that this part here starts moving. That's because I'm sending out Midi CC1 from this one. That way I'm controlling the mod wheel. That's fine and all, but the thing I'm looking for, I want to have an instrument that actually goes dead silent when I'm not breathing or blowing into this one. So you hear that this is set to trigger at least some sound. My way of getting around that is to once again go into the container here. We go to the part that says amplifier here, and you have an option of add a modulator here as well. And I will go for the Midi CC1. And it starts out on the Midi CC1 option that would be the same that controls the mod wheel that I have this connected to. So as soon as I did this, it's not letting anything through unless I blow into my breath controller. So this is exactly as I would like to have it. So now I have control of the instrument in the sense that my breath controls all of the dynamics and the volume as well. And it's as close to a full expression control as we can get with this type of instruments. And you can also notice that it's my actual vibrato that comes out of the instrument this time. So this is really all you have to do. There are other things to do, but I'm not going to go into this. This is more of a display of how to connect those two parameters that are most important to get this kind of basic control over the instrument. It's like the vibrato and the actual expression. Those two, for me, are the two most valuable parameters to have control over when it comes to the Kontakt instruments. For those instruments that has this range, it's a huge possibility. So go into the group editor, edit all groups. For the vibrato on the pitch control, pitch bend, and set the pitch bend range here to the same as you have on the Midi Guitar 2 software. And when it comes to the amplifier, just add a Midi CC controller to whatever you have controlling that. You see to what Midi CC that sends out, and then you set the value accordingly. So I'm going over the mutes in the little audio clip I have.